everybody, how's it going? We're going to be setting up here and doing another deck. This one is a mono white token creator. The commander is going to be Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. It is 4 mana and a white, legendary creature. It has vigilance. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. It's a 4/7. So that's a fun one. That will work for a lot of our creature token doublings. And your opponents will dislike that if they have any ETB enters. So let's see what we get rolling here. Starting off, we've got Order of the Sacred Torch. It's 1 mana and 2 white. You tap it to pay a life, and you can counter a target black spell. It's a 2/2. We got a Plains. We have Brave the Sands, 1 and a white. It's an enchantment. Creatures you control have vigilance, and each creature you control can block an additional creature each combat. Tiff will be joining us again. She is wanting more attention. Ultramarines Honor Guard, 3 and a white. It has Squad 2, meaning you can pay an additional 2 mana as you cast the spell. And when this creature enters, you create that many tokens that are copies of it. So it's 4 mana for 2s, meaning if you paid 6, you get a copy. If you paid 8, you get 2 copies. If you paid 10, you get 3 copies, etc. Other creatures you control get +1/+1, and it is a 2/2. Welcoming Vampire, 2 and a white. Flying. Whenever one or more other creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This only triggers once each turn. It's a 2/3. Pearl Medallion, 2 mana. It's an artifact that white spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Rumor Gatherer, 1 and 2 white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card instead. 2 and a 1. Banishing Slash, 2 white. Destroy up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or tapped creature. Then if you control an artifact and an enchantment, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance. I am going to take a little bit of a drink here because my voice is just a tad dry. Gotta stay hydrated. Tenuous Truce, 1 and a white, enchantment aura. You enchant an opponent. At the beginning of enchanted opponent's end step, you and that player each draw a card. When you attack enchanted opponent, or a planeswalker they control, or when they attack you or a planeswalker you control, sacrifice it. Segovian Angel, it's 1/1, flying vigilance. For 1 white mana. We have Elspeth, Sun's Champion, 4 and 2 white. It's a legendary planeswalker. You +1, you create 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. You can -3 to destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. Or you can -7, you get an emblem with creatures you control, get +2/+2, and have flying. It's a 4 loyalty starter. Phyrexian Vindicator, 4 white mana. Flying. If damage would be dealt to Phyrexian Vindicator, prevent that damage. When damage is prevented this way, Phyrexian Vindicator deals that much damage to any other target. Settle the Wreckage, 2 mana and 2 white. It's an instant. Exile all attacking creatures target player controls. That player may search his or her library for that many basic land cards. Put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle his or her library. This I've used as a good way. Throw out a couple tokens, have them attack, and then you do it on yourself if you need to get a bunch of mana if you're behind on stuff. So it's not a bad way to ramp. Felidar Retreat, 3 mana and a white. It's an enchantment. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. Create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. This is also another good combo with Settle the Wreckage, because pump out a bunch of lands, create a bunch of tokens, or buff your creatures immensely. Flawless Maneuver, 2 and a white, instant. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Core Haven, tap to add a colorless, or you can pay 1 and a white to tap it and prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by target attacking creature this turn. That is a legendary land. We've got Emeria, the Sky Ruin. It enters tapped. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more lands, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Taps adds for a white. Oketra's Monument, 3 mana, legendary artifact. White creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with Vigilance. You've got Vesuva. You may have Vesuva enter the battlefield tapped as a copy of any land on the battlefield. I'm going to take another drink. When you talk so much. Plains. Intangible Virtue, 1 and a white. It's an enchantment. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance. Myojin of Blooming Dawn, 5 and 3 white. Legendary creature. It enters the battlefield with an indestructible counter on it if you cast it from your hand. Remove an indestructible counter and create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token for each permanent you control. That includes lands, creatures, tokens, everything. 4 and 6. Krovax, Ascendant Hero, 4 and 2 white. Other white creatures get +1/+1. Non-white creatures get -1/-1. And you can pay 2 life to return it to its owner's hand. It's a 4/4. We got Thawing Glaciers. It enters tapped. You pay 1, search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. Return this to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next cleanup step. This is great because white doesn't have a lot of ramp, mana search and stuff like green does, so it's a good way to get around that. Staff of the Sun Magus, 3 mana. It's an artifact. Whenever you cast a white spell or a plains enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Guardian Scale Lord, 4 and a white. It's a dragon. Backup 1. When this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If that's another creature, it gains the following abilities until end of turn. So this is a flying, and the ability is whenever this creature attacks, return target non-land permanent with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is this creature's power. 3/4. We have another plains. Court of Grace, 2 and 2 white. It's an enchantment. Whenever it enters, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. If you're the monarch, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying instead. Got another land. Got so many lands. Reverse Damage, 2 and 2 white. It's an instant. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. You gain life equal to the damage prevented this way. Another land. Soul Ring, 1, tap and add 2 colorless. Another land. Space Marine Devastator, 3 and a white. It also has squad 2. So you pay 6, you get an additional 1. When this enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. It's a 3/3. So squatting up those, you get multiple destructions. Pretty good. Smothering Tithe, 3 and a white. Enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a treasure token. We have Idyllic Grange. It's a plains. You tap and add for a white. It enters tapped unless you control 3 or more other plains. And when it enters untapped, you put a +1 counter on target creature you control. God Eterna Oketra. Those are more plains. 3 and 2 white. It's a legendary creature. Double strike. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with Vigilance. And whenever Oketra dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into the owner's library 3rd from the top. It's a 3/6. Castle Ardenvale. Oh, excuse me. It enters tapped unless you control planes. It taps for a white, or you can pay 2 and 2 white to tap it to create a human creature token. Another planes. Imperial Oath. 5 and a white. Create 3 2/2 white samurai creature tokens with vigilance and scry 3. Another planes. Crackdown. 2 and a white. Enchantment. Non-white creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap during their controller's untap steps. Another planes. Auriok Champion, 2 white. Protection from black and from red. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may gain a life. Another planes. Deserted Temple. Taps for a colorless, or you can pay 1 to untap target land. Devoted Caretaker, 1 white. You can pay a white and tap it. Target permanent you control gains protection from instant spells and from sorcery spells until the end of turn. It's a 1/2. Secure the Wastes. X and a white. Instant. You put X 1/1 white warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. Amaria's Call. 4 and 3 white. You create 2 4/4 white angel warrior creature tokens with flying. Non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until your next turn. Or on the other side, it's a land. So if you need a land, it enters tapped. You may pay 3 life. If you don't, hold on. As it enters, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. Taps for a white. And we've got Gideon Blackblade, 1 and 2 white. He's a legendary planeswalker. As long as it's your turn, Gideon Blackblade is a 4/4 human soldier creature token with indestructible that's still a planeswalker. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to Gideon Blackblade during your turn. +1. Up to 1 other target creature you control gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Indestructible until end of turn. Or you can -6 it to exile target non-land permanent. It is 4 loyalty. All right, we have the other Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite, 5 and 2 white. Vigilance, other creatures you control get +2/+2, and creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. It's a 4/7. Combine that with the Crovax, and you get +3 and -3 for everybody. Trailblazer Boost, 2 mana. Equipment. Equipped creature has non-basic land walk, meaning it cannot be blocked by a creature it can't be blocked as long as defending player controls a non-basic land. So something like Idyllic Grange or Vesuva is a non-basic. Riot Control. 2 and a white. Instant. You gain 1 life for each creature your opponent controls. Your opponents, so it's all of them. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Teferi's Protection, 2 and a white. Instant. Until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you controls phase out, and then you exile it. Illumination. 2 white. It's an interrupt spell, which is the same as an instant. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. That spell's caster gains an amount of life equal to the spellcaster's spellcasting cost. It's good to have some counter spells in white, even if it's because you never know. Staff of the Storyteller, 1 and a white. It's an artifact. When it enters, you create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, and whenever you create 1 or more creature tokens, put a story counter on Staff of the Storyteller. You can pay a white to tap it to remove a counter and draw a card. Southern Paladin, 2 and 2 white. You can pay 2 white to tap it, destroy target red permanent. It's a 3/3. Divine Visitation, 3 and 2 white. It's an enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. Because angels are awesome. Zephyrum, 3 and a white. Squad 2, flying vigilance, and miracle 1 and a white. Meaning if you you may cast this card for its miracle cost when you draw it. If it's the first card you drew this turn, it's a 3/3. Fiend Slayer Paladin. It's 1 and 2 white. First strike, lifelink, and Fiend Slayer Paladin can't be the target of black or red spells your opponents control. Defense Grid. 2 mana. It's an artifact. Each spell costs 3 more to cast, except during its controller's turn. Meaning, if you cast a spell and they want to counterspell it, because it's not their turn, they have to pay an additional 3 mana. Glory. 3 and 2 white. Flying. You may pay 2 and a white, and you choose a color. Creatures you control gain protection from the chosen color until end of turn. Activate only if Glory is in your graveyard. It's a 3/3. Move that aside. Got a Plains. Soul Warden, 1 white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. It's a 1/1. Selfless Squire, 3 and a white. Flash. When it enters, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Whenever damage that would be dealt to you is prevented, put that many +1/+1 counters on Selfless Squire. It's a 1/1. Works well with one or the 2 other protection spells you got there. Hero of Bladehold, 2 and 2 white. It has Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/0 until end of turn. And whenever it attacks, you create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. It's a 3/4. Cartographer's Hawk, 1 and a white. Flying, when it deals combat damage to a player who controls more lands than you, return it to its owner's hand. If you do, you may search your library for a Plains, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It's a 2/1. Authority of the Consults, it's a 1 mana. Creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you gain a life. Reprieve, 1 and a white. Instant, return target spell to its owner's hand. Draw a card. Single Combat, 3 and 2 white. Each opponent chooses a creature or planeswalker they control, then sacrifices the rest. Players can't cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. Sword of Hearth and Home, 3 mana. It's an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from green and white. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target creature you own. Then search your library for a basic land card. Put both of those cards onto the battlefield under your control, then shuffle. Equip cost 2. We have Ogier Tak, Deepest Foundation, 4 and 2 white. Vigilance. If 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, 3 times that many of those tokens are created instead. When it dies, return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed. Under its owner's control, it is a 6/6. Temple of Civilization. You tap it for a white, or you can pay 2 and a white to transform it. Activate only if you attacked with 3 or more creatures this turn, and only as a sorcery. Song of the World Soul. 4 and 2 white. It's an enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell, populate, meaning you create a token that's a copy of a creature token you control. For each token that you've got, you can create another one. Commander's Plate, 1 mana. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has protection from each color that's not in your commander's color identity. Equipped a commander for 3 or a regular creature for 5. So because it's white, it'll have protection from everything but white. Flare of Fortitude, pay 2 and 2 white. It's an instant. You may sacrifice a non-token white creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Until end of turn, your life total can't change. And permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. And Swiftfoot Boots, 2 mana. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Equip cost 1. Take another drink. Ugh. Good stuff. All right, let's make some room. Got a couple more cards. But yeah, I've only played this one once or twice. Haven't gotten to do too much with it. But when I did do it, it was doing its job, which was a lot of fun. It was a good time. All right. Plains. Sarah Ascendant, 1 white. Lifelink. As long as you have 30 or more life, Sarah Ascendant gets +5/+5 and has flying. It's 1/1. Thunderwolf Cavalry, 4 and a white. First strike. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. It's a 4/4. Karu, it enters tapped. When it enters, sacrifice it unless you return an untapped planes you control to its owner's hand. Tap it to add a colorless and white. It's a little bit slow, but it's still good ramp. Anointed Procession. 3 mana and a white enchantment. If an effect would create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many tokens instead. Orzhov Advocist, 2 and a white. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. If a player does, creatures that player controls can't attack you or planeswalkers you control until your next turn. It's a 1/4. Hushbringer, 1 and a white. It's a flying lifelink. Creatures entering the battlefield or dying don't cause abilities to trigger. That may be counterintuitive to your commander, but if you don't have them out at the same time, this could slow people down. A Plains, another Plains. Legion of Loyalty, 6 mana and 2 white. It's an enchantment. Creatures you control have Myriad, meaning every time your creature attacks one player, if you have other players, you will create a token for each other player as well. Collective Effort. Oh, need to actually read that first. 1 and 2 white. It's a sorcery. You may escalate it. Tap an untapped creature you control. You may pay this for each mode chosen beyond the first. So you can make multiples by escalating. Choose one or more. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. Destroy target enchantment. Or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. Kayla's Command, 1 and 2 white. Choose 2 of these. Create 2 colorless artifact construct creature tokens. Put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. It gains double strike until end of turn. Search your library for a plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. You gain 2 life, and you scry 2. A Johnny's Welcome, 1 white. It's an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. Moonsilver Spear, 4 mana. It's an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has first strike. When equipped creature attacks, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. Equip cost 4. Plains. Mother of Runes, 1 white. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. 1/1. Revoke Existence, 1 and a white. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. It's a legendary land. You can tap it to add a color, or you can, tap it for colors, or you can pay 2 and tap it. You choose a color and add an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. So your devotion is the white pips that you have. So if you have these 3 cards on the battlefield, that's 2, 4, 6. You can pay 2 and tap it, and then you'll gain 6. You're gaining 4 mana. Pretty good ramp. And then Ancient Tomb, tap for 2 colorless. It deals 2 damage to you. So yeah, there you go. A white token generating deck. It does the job pretty good from what I've played with it, and it's fun. I like white as a color. A lot of people other like, red or black or green or blue a lot more, and white's kind of on the lower end of that. But white's got a lot of really good stuff, and mostly angels, which has kind of been my thing. But hope this kind of makes sense for you looking out there to deal either a monocolored or a token deck. This is pretty simple. Doesn't get too crazy. There is a chance for it to get crazy, but never likely, or not always likely, because people generally have a lot of removal, and if you start pumping out a bunch of tokens, they'll target you. So yeah, hope you like the deck. Hope you get to play it, chance it. Feel free to make any additions or changes to it, and we will catch you later.